Ladies and gentlemen and logo designers, we're going to do part 2 of creating our t-shirt logo. We're going to actually create the Inkscape document, and I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that will hopefully help you speed up the process. So you have to create a new Inkscape document that's the size of your t-shirt transfer, 8.5 by 11. This is a standard size sheet of paper. We're going to save the project in this folder, so we're going to make a folder called Graphic Design T-shirt Logo. So if you hit pause and do that, you're going to also make a folder called Assets for your T-shirt logo and do all that. Okay? All right. So I'm assuming you've got all those folders made, so let's go ahead and do it. So we're going to go to Inkscape. We're going to go File, New, and we're going to create our new Inkscape document. I'm going to delete this old Inkscape document. And here's the new one. We got to make sure it's the right size, so you're going to go File, Document Properties. And we want to make sure that it's the US letter size 8.5 by 11. That's, again, the size of your t-shirt transfer. And you can do it landscape if you want, or you can do it portrait. It depends on what your logo is going to look like. This is the way I'm going to do mine, and I'm going to hit close. Now, we've got to save it in the right spot, so we're going to go File, Save As, and you're going to go to Computer. You're going to go to a folder with your name on it. You're going to go into your folder called Creative Computers. You're going to go into a folder called Graphic Design. And there's a folder called T-shirt Logo. And I'm going to save this as Miller's T-shirt Logo. This is my second attempt, so I'm going to call it version 2 and hit Save. Okay, so far we've got the document saved. We have it all the right size, and now we're going to go on. So for your notes, you're going to go ahead and take these notes and answer these questions. What can you do with basic shapes? Well, with the basic shapes, instead of having to draw everything with manually with the pencil tool or the freehand tool or the pen tool or the Bezier curve tool, you can just draw things with basic shapes. So if you have a rectangle, you can draw a rectangle, but you can't see it because I didn't change the fill color. So if you want a circle, you can draw a circle. If you want it to be a perfect circle, you can press Control, and it makes it a perfect circle. If you want to draw it from the inside out, you hit Shift. Okay, so you can draw your basic shapes. You can draw a star, and you can click and drag the star. If you want to change some things about the star, we can change it to 0.35. Okay, that makes it thicker. If you want to round the edges, you can change that to 0.25. And that rounds the edges, so that's kind of funky. If you change it to -0.5, it goes all wonky. Anyway, so there's lots of interesting things you can do with your shapes. Let's put this back to 0. All right, so you can draw basic shapes. What can you do with the basic shapes tool? So instead of having to draw everything, if there's basic shapes in your project, use the basic shapes. All right, what can you do with fill and stroke? Well, if you click on an object and you click on the fill, you can change its color. If you hit Shift and click, you can change its stroke. If you right click and go to fill and stroke, you can actually go here and you can change the stroke style. So I can make the edges rounded, so you can see that turned into round, or I can make them pointy, or I can make them like that. Anyway, so you can change those things. And I can also change the thickness of the stroke color. So if I change that to 25, it's going to make that outside much thicker. Okie doke. Okay, so what can you do with fill and stroke? You can change the inside and outside color of your paths. What can you do with the Path Union tool? Okay, so in order to do the Path Union tool, we're going to get some inspiration from Dr. Dre, and we're going to do a really bad version of the Beats by Dr. Dre logo. We could do a really good one, but I don't know. I just figured it's a lot easier to, I just want to show you some concepts, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I'll spend a little bit of time on it just to give you the idea of what you can do with a union tool. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw our circle. So we want it to have a red fill, and we want to draw it from the center out. So we're going to hit Shift, and we're going to hit Control and draw a perfect circle. Okay, so it looks fairly ugly with that stroke color, so we're going to press Shift and change the stroke back to nothing. Okay, and now we need our B. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the text tool, and we're going to click right here, and we're going to type in the letter B. Letter B, letter B, letter B, oh letter B. It's not the letter C, it's the letter B. Okay, so we have our letter B, and so we're going to change this to Comic Sans, which is not super close to the Beats by Dr. Dre logo, but it's closer. So we're going to try to find Comic Sans. There it is. Okay, so we're going to do that, and so we're going to change the fill color to white, and we're going to change the font from size from 30 to 350. Nope, couldn't do it. Let's try that again. There we go. All right, so we changed it to a larger font, so we're going to drag it here down in here. Okay. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to use the tool that we talked about. So we're going to click on the circle, hit Shift, click on the letter B, and we're going to go Path, and we're going to take the difference. All right, so now it's all one thing, so we've combined shapes, okay? And so it's all one thing. So if I change it, you can see how it works. Okay, let's change it back to red. Okay, so now let's adjust this a little bit. So we're going to zoom in on this. And we're going to straighten this little top knot out a little bit. So we're going to go to the Edit Paths by Node. And I'm going to click there and hit Delete. Click there, hit Delete. I'm getting rid of these nodes. Delete, delete. Okay, so that looks a little bit better, not great. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a rectangle to, or actually we're going to subtract a rectangle. And so we're going to make the rectangle white. So we're going to click and drag and go like that. We're going to go to the Move tool, move this rectangle right where we want it. We're going to drag it a little bit larger. Okay, and then in the same way, we're going to hit Shift, and we're going to click on this, and then we're going to subtract that again. So we're going to go Path, and we're going to go Difference. Okay, so you can see we got a little closer to the Beats by Dr. Dre. All right, so let's do some other stuff that's going to make this worse, but it's going to help you figure this thing out a little bit, this tool's out a little bit. So I'm pressing Shift to zoom out. All right, so let's say for whatever reason we wanted to add a triangle on this thing. Okay, well we could go to our polygon tool. We can say I want a triangle. We could draw. It's showing up white, so we can't see it. So we draw our triangle. We click and we drag it where we want it. We click on it again to rotate it. We drag this in there, and then we're going to combine those. So we're going to hit Shift, and we're going to click on this, and we're going to go Path, and we're going to go Union, and now we've done that. Okay, so why am I showing you this? Because sometimes instead of just drawing everything freehand, it's a little bit easier to build it with different things. So I could also do this just to, I don't know what I'll draw. So let's draw something else over here. So I'm going to go to my pen tool, and I'm going to draw a shape. Let's say for some reason I love that shape. Well, let me fill it with red. And I want to add this down here. Same thing. So you can use letters. You can use basic shapes, and things you've hand drawn. Hit Shift, and we're gonna go Path, and I'm gonna do a difference there and subtract that. So anyway, so you can mess around with it. Okay. All right. So what can you do with Union? You can take shapes and everything, and you can add and subtract them together. Okay. What can you do with the Tweak tool? Well, let's find out. All right, so we're going to come up to the Tweak tool, and there's lots of different things that you can mess around with. So this one right here is called the Shrink. So we can go to this thing, and we can just drag stuff around and mess around with it and deform it, which I'm not sure why we'd want to do that, but that's what it does. So there's different ones, so you can experiment with the different things and see what they do, but you can like kind of warp things with that tool. Okay, that makes me sad to see it like that. I'm gonna go back. Okay. So what can you do with the Tweak tool? You can tweak and distort objects. What can you do with Filter Distort? Well, let's take a look and see on that one. Okay, so we have to make sure that our artwork is selected, whatever we want to mess around with. So we're going to go to Filter. There's a bunch of different things you can play around with. But we're going to go to Distort, and we're going to go to Chalk and Sponge. And you can see that it creates an interesting effect with that particular bit of artwork. So just some ideas of things to look at. So play around with that if you think something like that could be helpful to you. Okay, that's it for this spiel. So we're going to go on to the third one. We're going to do some more tips and tricks on the next video. All right, thanks guys for listening.